Mays cannibalized Patti LaBelle's band. So Mays had got a personnel change, and they needed 3 new members. So the first guy they took was Ron Smith, who was Patti LaBelle's guitarist. And the second guy they got was Billy Johnson, who was Patti's drummer, who also played with Dexter Wansel. And then they needed a keyboard player, and so they recommended me. Because he wanted guys from Philadelphia, because the band was from Philly. So he wanted people with the Philly sensibility. And so they recommended me, and so I took the gig with Mace.
And that was 80 or 79?
It was the very end of 79, like almost New Year's. So I went out in January to Oakland and started with them.
What were your first impressions of Frankie Beverly?
I thought that Maze's music was a little primitive because, I had been doing like the disco thing. I was playing disco sessions, and I was really into like Quincy Jones and the Earth, Wind and Fire at the time, which was very sophisticated. So
high precision, yeah.
Yeah, I was really into that. And Maze was kind of like down homey. And actually, Maze reminded me quite a lot of War, the similarities. And also, they had trouble getting a great sound on the recordings. So it sounded to me like, except for Joy and Pain, like Joy and Pain was a big step up from their previous albums. And Joy and Pain was really, I thought it was really good. And I was comparing that to, this sounds like Marvin Gaye. But it turns out Marvin Gaye discovered Maze. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So Marvin Gaye, the band's friend was the sister of Marvin Gaye's wife. And so she had Marvin come up and listen to them in a club in San Francisco. And Marvin took them to Capitol and got them signed with Larkin Arnold.
Why did we take them to Motown?
Maybe because that was maybe not the greatest move. When you look at, when you're on the outside, you'll see that, okay, this is happening, that's happening, but I think behind the scenes it's a lot different. And I think that probably the relationship, he probably knew that Maze was right for Capitol. So I don't know. I'm just a keyboard player, So 4 albums later, I joined the band on Joy and Pain, and then Joy and Pain became a hit, and so we went on tour, and that was the most luxurious treatment I had experienced to date.
How so?
Well, we had our own limos, we had valets, we had security, we were pampered. The money exponentially exploded from what I'd been making before. We had custom clothes made, bonuses.
Was that management or Capitol Records or?
No, that was Frankie.
Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie was generous with the band like that.
Well, I mean, they were always renowned for giving a great live show.
Yes, and Mays, they had a cult following, and so everywhere we played was always sold out. And they would piggyback bands that were just starting out. The promoters would put them in as the opening act for exposure because Mays was so popular. So tons of groups that we all know got their first tours opening for Mays. So it was very exciting. And then in November of that year, we recorded live in New Orleans, which became one of the best. A lot of people say that it's one of the best live albums. And we recorded 3 days, but the first 2 days, Frankie was not happy. And so the third day, the band stepped up, and the album is one show. So they didn't cherry pick between 3 shows to get a better takes. They used the whole show from top to bottom.
Impressive and unusual.
Yeah, and the magic happened that night, and so that was really nice, to have that chemistry. And in those days, the chemistry was really amazing between everybody was like best friends. We all having a great time. We partying like crazy. We were doing radio interviews and record signings every day. And it was just a great time.
Did you prefer more playing the up-tempo or the down-tempo material, or did it matter to you?
It didn't matter at all. I just enjoyed it quite a lot. And I liked bringing my flavor to the band, because the guys who played before me were a lot different. And I brought a little bit of kind of a little jazziness, and also the mellow thing, the kind of wash that I would provide for Roy Ayers albums that he really liked. Then I carried that over to play with Mays to give them a more sophisticated sound, in many people's opinion, than they had not had before. And with the addition of the other 2 members from Patti's band, it changed the sound of Mays.
They had a terrific catalog of songs. I mean, I can think of at least a dozen just great songs that they had at that time.
Well, Frankie he's an amazing writer, top to bottom, lyrical, conceptual, harmonically, and it all came from his head. And so that's like the continuation of genuine soul music, because Mays started in 1964 as a doo-wop group.
Wow.
And there are some singles out by the Butlers. The Butlers is the original Mays. And Bug, you may have seen, you'll find it on YouTube. The Bug, McKinley Williams, and Frankie started that when they were in high school. So the original group started in 1964.
That's incredible. I know that at least one of the songs on their debut was a remake from previous. I don't know if other ones were too, but it was interesting when I went back and heard the original version of one of those songs that ended up being a Maze song.
Uh-huh.
So you ended up going into the studio with them too, and doing some studio work. What was that like?
That was great. It was a little difficult because Ron Smith's wife was from New Orleans, and she was catering the sessions, and we would eat so much. After dinner, it's hard to get any work done. And that was David Rubinson's studio, Automat. And he was friends with Francis Ford Coppola. And so he was bringing these incredible wines that Coppola had not released to the public yet. And so, you know, it was almost too comfortable, but we did some good tracks. That is it's the fourth side to the live album was done in the studio. And also Frankie wanted me to play organ. So I got to, you know, I'm a B3 guy. I've been playing B3 since I was 15. And so that was a great thing to be able to play organ in the studio, because B3 had pretty much gone out of style in disco and, you know, the modern R&B things. But I've always really enjoyed playing organ. And I got to do some lightweight arranging, come up with stuff, and pretty much be free to play how I felt. So that was pretty nice. And the album did really well. And we went back and we did the We Are One album, and I got to do some arranging on that too. Because we would take Frankie's demos and we'd have to flesh them out, because they sounded not like they ended up. And so that was a great experience too. And Frankie was looking for something on the drums that he wasn't really getting with Billy, and so he brought in Harvey Mason and James Gadsden, and so we got to record with them. And it ended up that Billy came back and played something that was much better than what Harvey and James were doing. So that ended up to be a really cool experience.
Philip, one thing I always noticed following Maze is that it seems like they had a lot of personnel changes through the years. Why do you think that was? Why weren't they successful at keeping a real consistent lineup for many years?
That's hard to say, because that's Frankie's decision. And sometimes, you know, a member would fall out, or you know, or quit. You know, sometimes there's a lot of pressure. And it's different in each individual's case. I don't know why he broke up the band before Joy and Pain. So after We Are One, 3 of us quit at the same time. And maybe it had to do with something with the business. And so I left Maze for 6 years. And just as soon as I left Maze, Grover Washington snatched me up. Then I played a few years with Grover.
Love Grover. I played saxophone in school, and him and Ryan Laws were my favorites.
Yeah, Ronnie Laws is great. And Grover was such a warm human being, and we became best friends. We'd hang out all the time. Um, he was the ultimate sweetheart, and miss him very much. And then after I did that gig, I played with Phyllis Hyman a little bit, Roberta Flack, and then I got the call to play with Whitney Houston, and so I did a half a year with Whitney, and that was great because it was a world tour, and and I got to spend a lot of time in Japan and Australia and China.
Did that plant the seeds for your eventual move out there?
No.
No.
It kind of did because I fell in love with Japan. And that same year, I had taken a couple tours with Terumasu Hino, the jazz trumpet player. And I really fell in love with Japan. And that was during the bubble years when there was like money to burn over here. And the treatment was so amazing. I'd never had that type of VIP top class treatment before. And the people were just so amazing. The lifestyle is amazing in Japan. And that's the reason why I'm still here. It's because I love the lifestyle.
What year did you move out there?
98.
98. Wow. So it's been 21 years already.
Yeah. So coincidentally, right after the second Hino Teramasa tour, I got the call from Whitney. So I had spent quite a lot of 1988 in Japan, and I made some great friends, and I made some connections as to where we started doing a little business, and also at that time I got the call to join Jeffrey Osborne's band. So I spent a couple of years with Jeffrey too, and he's one amazing guy. We became best friends as well.
I think he's one of my very favorite male singers.
Yeah.
Incredible.
He's one of the most unselfish, generous, down-to-earth people you could ever hope to meet.
Did you play some of the LTD catalog with him also?
Yes.
That must have been fun.
And that was great.
Yeah.
That was great. And I did one album with Jeff, and then I got the call to go back to Mace. So I went back to Mace, and I stayed there for about nine more years before I decided to move to Japan. And what started my move to Japan is I married a Japanese pop star.
Okay.
And along with that came a position and opportunity to solely be a producer, songwriter, arranger. And so I left Maze again and came over to Japan. In the first 6 or 7 years I was in Japan, then I was only doing that, writing, arranging, and producing. And
did you miss the other stuff?
I did, but actually, one thing I want to say is America changed over the times, over the course of me being the only Chinese American guy amongst nothing but Black people. Because 90% of the time it was that, except for when I played with Cyndi Lauper and Martika. Then those are white audiences. But the rest of the time, all the audiences were Black. And from the very beginning up until hip hop and rap took over as the leading music of the world, I felt totally comfortable amongst Black people. And maybe around the middle 90s, that changed. And I started feeling a little different. And when I would go out amongst, being the only non-Black person in these huge crowds, I started feeling like people wanted to rob me, beat me up, or kill me. And because they didn't know who I was. Because early on, like, this is like when maybe, Mary J. Blige and Aaliyah and R. Kelly and started becoming the superstars. Maze was the only old school people left on the bill. It was all Maxwell, Mary J. Blige, people like that. And they didn't know who Maze was. And so, I'd go out in the crowd or through the neighborhoods, and people would look at me racially hostile because they couldn't understand that I was just, I was part of it. So and I grew up with Black people. My elementaries, junior high, and high schools were all 80% Black. So I always felt comfortable in Black culture until after, like, gangster rap and, all these things started coming out. Then the love kind of disappeared. And I watched the decline of America, traveling through all those same towns for 25 years. I've seen the downtowns close. I've seen the seen the neighborhoods go bad, seen the economic, people lose their jobs. There was never anything good to eat on the road, unless you're in a bigger town. You go to these, we tour through the South and go to these towns, and a lot of times the food was just crap. And, I'm a gourmet, and, I want to eat good. So
have some of that couple of wine.
Yeah, the food had a lot to do with me moving here too. Tokyo has the most Michelin stars in the world. The food over here is amazing, and the quality of the food that you buy is light years ahead of what you buy in America at the supermarket. So that was one thing, and the other thing I had, I was tired of riding on the bus, doing the same thing again and again, and having that offer, just something inside of me just lit up and said, okay, this is what I've always wanted to be a producer. And coming over here has made me develop a whole new skill set. In fact, a whole new series of skill sets that make me my own boss and make me call my own shots at whatever level that may be. And it's tough over here. The music business bottom has dropped out over here, just like everywhere else, but things exist, and there's a lot going on. I'm able to interact with people who are half my age, 1/3 of my age, and still be a viable entity in the music business. Whereas a lot of my peers in the States have either gone on to teaching or doing something else, taking another form of work, because the viability does not exist anymore. Mm-hmm. Recording business is dead. Downloads, CD sales, physical sales are dead. streaming has gutted income stream. Of course, naturally, you get old and younger people take the place. Younger buyers are looking for something different. And to me, today's music is mostly crap.
Yeah. So, no argument there. So looking back at all of that, I mean, incredible, rich history that you've had in R&B, funk music, jazz. What are one or two of the top memories as you look back, Philip, that you just are like, that is it?
Let's see. I would think one time we were playing at Madison Square Garden, and I played an organ solo on "We Are One," and then I was like, I'm at home now. This is New York, right? So I want to, this is your boy here. I'm from New York, eventually I became a New Yorker, and I started playing, and I started hearing the crowd like start rumbling, and then the more intense my solo got, the louder the crowd started getting. And then when I finished, I got a standing ovation in Madison Square Garden. So I'll always remember that. Other things are having the same kind of individual response. Because Roy started this, when he would introduce me, everybody in the crowd would go, woo, 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 woo. And they remembered me over the years as I jumped from band to band. And whenever someone would introduce me, the crowd would go woo. And to hear that in the Superdome, one year that the Superdome was like over capacity, there was more than 100,000 people in there. And hearing that and getting that kind of love, that's kind of moments. And there's one other thing I did. I got a bunch of pictures to show you.
What do you got there?
This is a project I did. It's called the Project for Tenement Square. And it never came out, but I gathered together a bunch of people. I wrote a song and made a music video. And so in this picture is Ashford Simpson, Phyllis Hyman, Orange Juice Jones, Kashif, Richie Havens, Grover Washington, Tashawn, Nikki Richards, the Hooters, and all these people came out to join my my recording. And after that, Jeffrey Osborne, Phyllis Hyman, Nona Hendricks, Michelle Shocked, they all came and contributed to my video. You can find it on YouTube. It's called A Song for Tenement Square. So that was a great moment.
Like a We Are the World kind of thing.
Yeah. And also Maze joined. And so we brought a film crew to the Philadelphia Academy of Music, and we recorded Maze's part there. And so here's a picture of Maze on stage filming my song. There's Valerie Simpson.
Your hair's a bit longer.
Yeah. This is me back then. That was 1999. And Valerie told me, this is a great song. So coming from her, that's she's going to hate me for this. Here's Ashford and Simpson asleep on the bus.
What year is that, would you say?
1978. Here's a photo with Patti LaBelle, Narda Michael Walden, Skip Scarborough, and Patti LaBelle's band. That was in LA. There's a Maze 8x10. There's another one. Everybody has less hair. Here's an early one. Everybody's got hair.
So the one before that was from the early 90s?
Yeah. That was from Back to Basics.
Yeah, so like 93 or something?
Yeah, and the other one is from We Are One. Here's my promo shot with legs.
Whose legs are those?
To my sister-in-law. This is me in 1990. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the suit. Did you ever come close to putting out a record under your own name?
Yeah, I keep threatening to. I'm supposed to get something going on with Red Bull this year, and I may get some sponsorship. This is me in high school. This is a band called Tamra. This is 1974.
Also funk, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were copying Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, Santana. There's Edwin Birdsong with Bernard Purdy, Stevie Wonder, and I'm in the back.
Birdsong just left us a couple of months ago.
Yeah. This is early years with Roy.
Uh-huh. Cool shot.
There's a shot with Mace.
You look like you're having a time of your life in that one.
Yeah, we were rolling right back then. There's Ray Chu. He's the musical director for Dancing with the Stars and American Idol. The Cyndi Lauper tour schedule. Let's see.
How'd you feel about playing stuff like that? I mean, that's not very funky.
Oh, she was great, and she was kind of doing a hip hop thing at that time. There's a birthday card from Grover. There's an old ticket from the Palace.
83.
Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have? Kashif.
Another one that left us too soon. Great talent.
Here's an all-star concert I did. Patrice Rushen, Hubert Laws, Grover. I think
Wow.
Jimmy Owens was on that too.
Is that in the 80s?
Yeah. What else I got? This is Phyllis Hyman, Cindy Mizell, and Brenda King. That's in the studio. There's some of the Las Vegas days with Jeffrey Osborne.
Whose baby?
I forget. There's the Jeffrey Osborne band. That's Johnny McGee from LTD, who stayed with Jeff. There's Grover in the studio.
Yeah. Boy, he played the heck out of that soprano sax.
That's a Whitney Houston tour book.
So when you did that with her, did she only have the first record out?
No, this is the second record. I Want to Dance with Somebody. This is a Roy Ayers tour book. 1977, 78.
Did you ever encounter a particular song or piece of music, Philip, that just kind of was especially challenging for you to get just right?
Oh, all the time. Let's see. Pretty much I would study quite a lot before tackling anything. Usually the things that got me was if someone would ask me to perform a classical piece. And I had to do that with an artist here, very famous artist named Kazuhiko Kato. And I was supposed to do duet with a classical violinist. And then when he heard me play it, he got all huffy and stormed off. So they hired a real classical pianist to do it. But I don't read, so I had to work it out. And evidently they turn their nose up on anybody who doesn't play classical music. So that was probably the one where I felt not too good.
A little out of your element on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is if I have to play chromatic harmonica, because I play it, but I never practice it. I never got good at it. I can play blues harp, but usually I'll practice it until I have it down. But when I get on stage, I'll choke because it's such a disconnect when you're playing in a mic and you need to hear it back in the mix, and you have to remember all those positions. So that's one thing I consistently fail at. And one last thing. It's a belt buckle.
Hey.
And this was given to us by Dave Parker, the baseball player, who...
Pittsburgh Pirates are my all-time favorite team.
Yeah. And Dave loved us. We go over to his house and we party with him. A wonderful guy.
The Cobra.
Yep.
How's his nickname? Wow, Dave
So
Parker.
that's it for the stuff. Of course, I have all these. I have all these laminate passes.
Wow.
And too numerous to
solid as a rock.
Everything. I'm gonna make a collage out of these. I'll send you the picture, or you can grab the picture that I took.
Yeah.
When I lined them all up on the table. So
yeah. And what are those record awards for? Those Ayers or Mays or?
Oh, that's for Mays. Live in New Orleans, Back to Basics, and Silky Soul. And I have a multiple one for We Are One, but that's back in New York. It's too big to ship.
Oh, you have stuff stored in New York, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can move back at some point.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There's so much stuff scattered around. It's hard to keep track of. And also I've minimalized. Like I used to have tons and tons of memorabilia, T-shirts, tickets that I didn't use, and all this stuff that probably would have made good gifts to people. And then as I move and scale down, I just throw stuff away because
you got it. You can't take it all.
It's junk, So some people like to keep everything, and I've even boiled down my keyboards. I kept the Hammond, I kept the Wurlitzer and the Clav, and there's a Rhodes and some mini Moogs and stuff over here, but I had over 50 keyboards, and it's like at one point it's like, why,
We were talking before we came on air, Philip, and I want to just touch a little bit on what you're doing today, because you're still so active. And as I told you, the band that you have going out there is very impressive, and the repertoire that you do is very cool, covering just the gamut of R&B from 60s, 70s, and 80s, and funk, and some jazz stuff, and some eclectic things. Can you talk about that a little bit, about what you're doing out there today?
I like to keep the thread going, because I feel like I'm kind of the keeper of the torch, and a lot of people aren't interested in playing anything but hits. But I'm a crate digger, and there's so many great songs. And my singer, Ashton Moore, he's younger than my son, but he's an old soul. And, we can do all the Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye, Leroy Hudson, Earth, Wind and Fire. Anything I want to do, we can make it happen. And so I like to perform that, because I want people to know that this body of work exists, and it's important. In terms of day-to-day things, I'm involved in a songwriting team, which has been successful in Japan. And so I've gotten, last couple albums that I wrote songs on were #1 on the Oricon charts. And I've had like Coke commercials, anime themes, TV event themes, and songs appearing on CDs consistently since we started the songwriting team. 10 years ago. And then I played with a group called Exile, which is one of the biggest groups in Japan. I did a TV show with them that lasted a year.
What kind of style of music does Exile play?
It's EDM. It's electronic dance music mixed with soul. And but the thing about that tour is each show is 50,000 people.
Wow.
And they take place in the baseball stadiums. So I'm not involved with them anymore. I was playing with a Japanese superstar named Toshinobu Kubota, and that lasted maybe 13 years. Then he'll do a tour with 50 dates. But I'm getting a little old now. I'm 60. I'm 62. I'm 62 now, and so the younger generation, even here, is starting to come, and also the budgets are shrinking, and so I do a variety of things. I have a lot of events that I curate. And
don't you also sometimes sit in on some of the U.S. acts if they come out there? Like,
yes, I did a Tower Power tour, which was awesome. They made me an honorary lifetime member. So anytime Tower Power plays anywhere I am, I have to go on stage and play with them, which is a great honor. One of the very few keyboard players to have played with Tower Power. And we become lifetime friends, which is very cool. I did a tour with Nathan East. I did a tour with Harvey Mason. I did 2 tours with Roy Ayers using my band. I brought Maze over and joined Maze here in Tokyo. I backed up a group called Silk. I played with Sheena Easton and Jody Watley as a musical director with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. I went to Japan. I went to Beijing with Jody Watley. And I think that's about it. I can't remember anything.
You're like a secret weapon out there now.
And I also do festivals with my band. So I did the Kawaguchi Jazz Festival last year, and another thing called the Tokyo Music Cruise, which is not a cruise. It's a festival and headlining. And I've done festivals in China and around Japan with my band. So the Kawaguchi Jazz Festival was great. It was in a hall, which was very cool to headline. And so, good things come. Stay pretty busy, so I can't complain at all. And the lifestyle here is amazing. This is a new apartment, and it's fantastic. So I'm totally enjoying life here, and very great friends, a lot of talented musicians and singers, and a lot of activity going on. So I'm living a great life.
I got to go out there about 10 years ago to Tokyo and Osaka and one of the other cities. I had a great time. I didn't get to check out any music, unfortunately, but who's the guy working with you that sounds so much like Stevie Wonder?
That's Ashton Moore.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, Ashton is from Detroit. He has a master's degree in music. He was a runner-up in the Thelonious Monk competition. He has his own CDs out. He has a gospel choir, and he does a lot of TV commercials. So to me, he's the best singer that I can find here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to do Stevie and sound that much like Stevie with the nuances, you know. So impressive.
Yeah, it's hard to find. It's very hard to find someone who is your match. And also he's very diligent and a great study. And we do everything together. He's one of my best friends. And so I wouldn't be able to do this without him, because to be frankly, I don't like smooth jazz at all. And I was fortunate to escape that wave. I left before it became just about the only thing left to do. And I know a lot of people do it, and they're great. I mean, I love Gerald Albright, and Kenny G's a very good friend of mine, and a lot of these guys are great friends of mine and excellent musicians. I don't down what they do at all. It's just I don't want to do it. I don't like, if I do instrumental music, it's probably going to be like either Herbie Hancockish or organ jazz or something of that, like that
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to have some soul. It got to have some funk. It's got to have some grit, right?
And I understand what it has become, kind of a BGM as a backdrop for maybe restaurants or long freeway rides or something like that. But I need to have a vocalist with me, and my other vocalist is named Swinky, and she's from Kenya, and she'll do anything I ask. Minnie Riperton, Aretha, Chaka, Mother's Finest. So anything I think of between those two and the rest of my crew, it's being able to do what I love, to continue to do what I love, aside from all the commercial things I do, because I mean, you have to live. And so, there's a lot of work, but the things I most enjoy is leading my band and making the people delighted with soul music. So that's pretty much the highlights of continuing to do what I do.
The crowds that you get that come to those shows, are most of them familiar with the songs, or do you help introduce them to some of them?
Yeah, I do introduce the songs to them. Most of the songs they've never heard before, unless they're kind of DJ record collector types. And a lot of times I'll make it more commercial to include songs that they know, like Heat Wave or Quincy Jones, or I'll always include, and I always include some 60s pop, some Joe Cocker, stuff like that, Etta James, things that I know they've heard, because people like the familiarity, but I also introduce songs that they haven't heard by, like, the Ohio Players, or what did we do last time? We did quite a few songs by Graham Central Station, and they really enjoyed that because it's exciting, and I'll pull out some Curtis Mayfield, and I also tailor things to, like, if someone needs a Mardi Gras event, I'll pull out some real New Orleans music. If someone has a Brazilian thing, I can do that too. And or jazz. I've actually learned how to play jazz piano, which was one of my weaker points, but it seems to be an asset these days.
Well, how recently did you pick that up?
Over the past 6 years. I mean, I always played jazz piano. I was really into McCoy Tyner, and I always practiced jazz piano, but I never did it as a job. I always did it as a hobby, something that I enjoyed. I mean, we listened to Coltrane. I was a big CTI freak. Herbie Hancock, all of his early works, from Dolphin Dance to Maiden Voyage. And I mean, I've been playing that stuff since I was a little kid. But now, there are jobs, regular jobs that you can do, private shows, private clubs, things like that, that they want to hear the jazz standards. And so I took it upon myself to study jazz piano, and I'm still not great, and I'm a lot different than the other guys. I'm more like Ramsey Lewis and Les McCann, Gene Harris. That's more of my forte, and that's what I don't really want to sound like Wynton Kelly, or I want to sound like Oscar Peterson because he's funky. But these kind of guys that all sound alike, I feel that about, not to put anybody down, but when I go out and hear the jazz pianists, and it's almost virtuoso, but it's also very, it's not outstanding. It doesn't, like Oscar's got that spark. When you hear him, you hear fire, and that's what interests me more than being kind of like very harmonically fluent, and chromaticism and things like that. But I find it boring to that approach.
What do you think of a player like Bob James?
I love Bob James.
Yeah.
Bob James is a very big influence on me, especially Power of Soul album by Idris Muhammad, and Bob James' first 2 solo albums are very, very excellent. And the work that he did with others at the time on all the CTI albums, it's very, very influential, very lyrical, melodic, and using the Rhodes, and his arranging and orchestration is awesome. Yeah. So when it got more into the smooth thing or the foreplay thing, the whole mood changed because that went with the times. But when he came out, he was very, very original, innovative, and like unique. So I like to keep that in my heart. Those times of when you heard somebody play a Rhodes, it's really speaking, and it takes control. So that's more of my forte, is to stay in there, in that idiom and that time period. It may be that I'm frozen in the 70s, but I like it that way.
Hey, God bless you for doing it, because I mean, it touches me. It always touches me. It never gets old, and because there's so much less of it today, I think it's just that much more special. So
yeah, and I just built this room, and so when I'm done with it, I have no excuse not to write anymore. All those excuses, there's some, every day the phone rings and somebody wants something more, and of course, we do need money to continue to pay our support our lifestyle. And so, but I'm very, very fortunate that I have never done anything except play music. And I've never had to take a day job or a teaching job. I teach privately, but I'm not interested in teaching at a school or a university. That is entering the workforce, and you gotta wake up too early. As you know, I can't get up before.
Yeah, no, I've learned that. No, but it's great too that you're still, kind of learning. You're still picking up jazz piano, and you mentioned being 62, but you know what? It's still a learning experience, the musical journey, right?
Of course, and I never received any formal training besides I took a year of music theory in college, and then I got pulled away to New York. I would have loved to go through college and study classical music theory because my teacher was amazing, and seeing my teacher play classical music made me want to do it. She reminded me of Ahmad Jamal on Beethoven. That's how much fire she had. But unfortunately, I didn't get that formal training. I did teach myself about harmony, and also I can transcribe very quickly. I can write out things for people exactly what I need them to play. But the reading thing has always been lacking. So some people say that's good because you're not copying everything I've done, and I think I have my own style, and so everything I've done is a culmination of the things I've absorbed by listening to the people that I love, and a lot of those people are soul musicians. So I think having that approach, and I also like to remain being different, even though if I'm not as I'm not the guy who plays giant steps or Cherokee, or plays rhythm changes at 100 miles an hour, but no, let the other guys do that, and I'll stay in my lane.
I think that's a great message for musicians everywhere, to be true to themselves. Whatever you do, whatever style, be true to yourself. And that's part of the reason I named this show Truth and Rhythm, is finding the truth in the music and finding the truth in yourself in creating that music.
Well, thanks very much for having me, and I'm glad we finally got around to getting this done. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And it looks like you really are very passionate about what you do, and that's very cool.
Well, thank you for coming on. I much appreciate you hanging in there. We had some technical challenges and all that, but hey, modern technology, this is amazing that we're doing this from two sides of the world. So that's fantastic. Continued success, and keep holding the line, for quality music and spreading that musical joy to all those people out there. If anybody happens to find themselves in your neck of the woods, what's the name of the venues that they could find you at?
Blues Alley, Japan, and Mobius, which is spelled Mobius. I purposely only play it at Mobius because I want to support the owner. But actually, he just retired. But I still continue to play there because it's very centrally located to Shinjuku, and the people are used to seeing me there, so they pack it every time. and which feels great. There's a lot of other places to play around. I'm going to start trying different places, but the best thing is just to spy on my Facebook page. Okay. And there, I'm always like shamelessly advertising where I'm going to be playing.
Philip, been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
It's my pleasure, and continue to spread the message.
Hey, and we're back. You know, I still get goosebumps thinking about that first experience that he shared with Roy Ayers in Chicago. Wow, it was like a dream. It sounded like a dream. So many other great stories as well, and I was saddened to hear how he came to feel ostracized in America in the 1990s. But so glad he's continuing to thrive and hold on to his musical beliefs and keep it real soulful and funky, that is. A final thanks goes out to Mr. Philip Wu, a true funk soldier and one badass keyboard player. Also, sincere thank you as always to you, the viewers, for continued interest and support. Again, I told you I'd remind you, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Sign up to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube. And if you have done so, tell friends, tell family. We need that support. Show these great funk, jazz, and soul artists that you appreciate the work that they did and the impact they've had on your lives. Also, I want to hear from you. Email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know what you like about the show, who else you might want to see, what's going on in your brain, musically speaking. Share it with me. I'll answer you, I promise. And with that, as always, Scott Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.